Thank you. Why is the alternative high school program not being looked at as possible place for savings when it services so few students? There has been mentioned that there's a program in Shelton that could maybe accommodate these students.
I think the Valley Regional Adult Education Program. And I know my answer today, we're limited by time. I would encourage people to look on my superintendent's blog. It gives a very detailed explanation, side-by-side comparison of the two programs. But just to say, we have made cuts in the alternative education program. We cut a full-time staff member. Earlier this year, we were looking at relocating that program. In the end, we renegotiated the lease at half the cost for next year. So the savings, we've saved over $100,000 already on that program. So we've made significant cuts. At the same time, just to say, it's a revenue generation initiative in that we take students from Trumbull into a part of that program, and those students pay tuition. The tuition from our Trumbull students will more than pay for the rent of the program next year. So I think that we're going to continue to look at that. Currently, the high school principal and our alternative education staff are also looking at other models, perhaps the year after, that alternative ed may be here on site and may be offered after school. So we've taken a huge cut in the program. We're looking at doing business differently. But where we are now, I think we've gone as far as we can for this year in terms of alternative education.
Thank you. I think we have a few more odd and end questions that I think we're going to wrap up here with. Why is our average teacher salary higher than other towns?
Salaries are the outcome of negotiations over time. And if you look at our salaries, they are highly competitive. Years gone by, Monroe was not a desirable district to come to because our salaries were so depressed. At this point, this is where our salaries are, which will also figure into the next round of negotiations. The first thing you do is you look at where your salaries are with comparable districts, and that's part of the information that's used for negotiations. So if our teachers are in a good place right now in terms of salaries and being competitive, then I would not see that the district would need to raise them any higher. We probably would want to make sure we equalize so they're probably in the middle of the pack for comparable districts, and that's an ongoing process as these 3-year contracts are renewed.
There's a large fuel energy credit that you've had in your proposals. How did that fuel energy credit come about?
We had, through efficiencies, and we were able to burn some natural gas at Jockey Hollow this year. It was the first time that we actually used the dual burner system. We've always burned heating oil there, but it is it has a system whereby it can burn oil or natural gas. We were able to reap some savings from natural gas. We had a $50,000 grant from the state of Connecticut to help districts with energy this year, because last year at this time a gallon of oil was about $4, if you remember. So between the grant, some efficiencies, and it was not a horrible winter. We looked at our oil, and we buy in a consortium. So we buy at the beginning of the year. We have already committed for next year's oil. In that consortium, we had purchased the full amount of oil. We had some left over. We were able to liquidate that to help offset expenditures for next year.
Great, thank you. How many teachers total will be laid off if this budget passes on the third referendum? And of these, how many layoffs are due to decreased enrollment?
All right, so I will add this up on the spot, and I think I'll be pretty much on track, but I'll make sure I get it on the blog so that if I misspeak in any way. The initial out the gate budget had 20 teachers. Actually, it was 20.4, and we were looking at putting in part of a strings. But 20 teachers through some of the cuts early, when the first referendum did not pass, there was another half teacher cut. There were 4 certified positions in this cut. So you're looking really at approaching 25 certified staff positions reduced out of the district. The decreases for enrollment were made in that first cut. And 6 to 7 teachers probably were made for enrollment changes. And the remaining teachers then are really all budgetary and trying to do business to meet the bottom line.
When it comes to laying off teachers, how will the decision be made on which teachers will be laid off?
The contract that we have with the MEA is very prescriptive in terms of layoff. And non-tenured teachers are laid off before tenured teachers. However, within the non-tenured teachers, the district does have the right to look at that pool as one large pool and decide who best meets the needs of the district. So if Caitlin is a fourth-year teacher who doesn't have tenure and I'm a first year, but based on all the reductions and how we move things around, if my background and experience is a better match for the district, I could be maintained over Caitlin. So it's not strict seniority and non-tenure. And at this point in time, as you recall from a Board of Education meeting, not knowing where we're going to end up in all of this, the district has notified all of its 70 non-tenured teachers that they do not have jobs for next year. So they are sitting and waiting for this budget to be settled. And I've made a commitment to the MEA, to our community, as soon as we have a budget. We're behind the scenes, obviously working on this too. As soon as we have a budget to say, this is our team, and unfortunately these are the people who cannot stay with us because we want to call back many of the 70. But